Hello, Bible lovers. This is The Seven Deadly Sins and Last Four Things by Hieronymus Bosch, or Bosch. And I'm going to show you a pretty good trick that he's got hidden in it. This is luxuria, and it's translated as pride. And this is the way I would read these symbols. That golden serving dish on that mantle above the woman's head. When you see a symbol above someone's head, especially as clearly outlined as this, that represents that person. She is very wealthy. She is very stable. She is, her thinking is dominated by wealth. The whole mantelpiece is her marriage. You see her reflection in the mirror directly above that, as if to dominate her thinking there. As a symbol above her head is that jar. It's a, well, let's say it's a feminine jar. And across from that, we see a masculine jar. And this represents her marriage. She has a very stable marriage. You see that nice stable platform it's on. And the husband and wife are pretty much equals. They both brought things to the marriage. That's the junk piled up next to them. And so, but this also reflects on this woman. She has a very balanced, orderly looking house. It's not really cluttered with a bunch of ostentatious stuff. And that the flower pot on her left-hand side, you can see how the flower pot is kind of mimicking her body posture. And her flowers are like her head, where her head would be. And again, she's adjusting. She's got little hands up. And so the flower pot is symbolically reflecting her and her personality. And I read it as Bosch is saying she has good thoughts. This is really basically a good person. She has a nice fancy vase, but you know, that can't be faulted against her. And what's odd about this picture, what's odd about the whole seven deadly sins, is how undeadly the sins are. And so this is pride. Would you see anything in here that would say, oh, this person should spend an eternity in hell for committing this? No, of course you wouldn't. And this was done by Hieronymus Bosch, the man with the wildest imagination in the Middle Ages. Why is it so tame? And what is all this mirror business about? Okay, continuing around the room, we see that orange. The orange, however, is not on the sill where it could be seen from the street. It's hidden from the outside view on its own little ledge. And even the street cannot see into the house clearly because even that's fenced off. So this is a very sort of secret world here. Now we have that hope chest that seems, it's long and thin, and it seems to have beads, jewelry perhaps of some kind hanging out. Before we get to the demon, let's look at that. There's a little dog in the other room. There's a separate little room that we can peek into, and in that room there's a little dog, there's a little fire in the fireplace. There's a man standing with his back to the fire. Oh, I just figured out the fire. And what he's doing, there are two mirrors in that room as well. The man is looking in a mirror, but he's looking over his shoulder at another mirror in that room. So he's able to see the back of his head by looking at that mirror. And above that, there is a little gold plate with a candle in it shining. Okay, so what is all that then? So now let's identify the wolf and the man in the other room. We'll begin with the dog. And the dog is a sign of loyalty. The dog is in the other room, so it's more closely associated with the man who is standing with his back to the fire. Fires, and the fire is actually above the dog's head. And for as much as the dog thinks, the fire could be said to dominate the dog's thinking. Fires in Bosch symbolism, small contained fires, like this one, indicate Jesus. They are the light that shines before men, and this one is in fact shining right in front of a man. Only the man has his back turned. But that identifies the man with the fire, as well as that candle above the man's head and that light shining through the window over the man. These two are both indicators. The candle is letting your light shine before men. You don't hide a light under a bushel. You put it where all can see, light the room. And the light of truth is coming through the window. All these things are indicators that that man is a stand-in for Jesus. And so what is Jesus doing? He's looking at a mirror, but he's also looking at another mirror through that mirror. So he's getting a reverse view. That is our clue. Okay, now let's go to this skinny wolf. This isn't a big, hungry, ravenous, big, bad wolf that stuffs himself. This is a hungry, thin wolf. In fact, this wolf is so thin, it could use that hope chest as a coffin. In fact, the hope chest kind of resembles a coffin a little bit for this big, bad wolf. And it's even got like a noose hanging out of it. And our big bad wolf, or our skinny bad wolf, is in lamb's clothing, just like in the picture, the other part of the same painting, labeled Lust, where we had Nathan in lamb's clothing. Here we have a wolf in lamb's clothing. So this wolf is disguised. So what can we say about the relationship between the woman and the wolf? We can say a woman is sharing her house with a wolf, only she doesn't know it because the wolf is in disguise and because she is focused on herself. She has a pleasant, orderly house, but there is a wolf running around, and the wolf is changing the way she sees things. And the wolf is in command of her understanding of things. But the wolf himself is, he is associated closely with the man in the other room, as well as the dog and the two lights that represent Jesus. Well, the three lights. The light in the fireplace, the light in the candle, and the light in the window. And so, this is not necessarily a malicious or big bad wolf. This actually might be a good wolf. Just as Nathan was good dressed in that lamb suit, maybe this lamb suit is actually a disguise for a good person. This is in fact Hieronymus Bosch himself. This is a portrait of his home life. Hieronymus Bosch is a heretic. He is devoted to Jesus. The Catholic Church will burn him alive as a heretic because he is not one of them. So he wears a disguise. But even though he's hunted like a wolf, he is not an evil wolf. His wife does not know he is a heretic. He has married her partly for her money and her position, and has tried to be a good husband. But he must deceive his wife. And so that's him adjusting the mirror. But what he's also saying is that for you to see things properly, You must not look at things as they appear, but see them differently. And in fact, you should look to Jesus. Jesus is focused on something behind himself. And so this brings us back to the main painting itself. So what the symbols are saying is something important is happening behind the back of Jesus. And when we look at what's happening in the back of Jesus, we should realize that the way we are seeing things are not how they actually are. Notice that her hat is more or less the center focus of the picture, and we've seen that shape before. There it is. The shape you're supposed to put in the mirror is this shape, the shape around the glutton. And that's what Bosch is trying to tell us, that the glutton is not to be viewed as a glutton, that there's something here that is very much amiss. One last thing. Note the man with his back to the fire looking in the mirrors. Now, he represents Jesus. That isn't Jesus. But he's sort of a stand-in for Jesus, and he's modeling something. He's modeling that he's standing next to that small, cozy fire. Now then, when we switch over and look at the glutton picture, what we have in the middle of the floor is a small, tidy fire. And this, along with the outline of its general shape that ties it to the bonnet, the tiny fire ties it to the man standing with all the markings of Jesus around him, just as this, the position of this part of the panel, part of the table, is behind Jesus. The shape and the fire tie it to the other scene. And so that gives us a little more confirmation that we're on the right track of interpretation, that we are meant to see this at a different angle than it is presented. So what I'm suggesting is the only reason this little part of the panel exists is to tell you not to take the rest of the 7 deadly sins and 4 last things at face value. It's a trick. Anyway, that's a pretty good lesson in reading symbols. They're pretty simple on one level and pretty complicated on another. And then all sorts of good fun and great secrets, by the way. We'll get to some secrets. Thanks for watching. Peace, Bible lovers. Peace.